The great crystal hall of Cryath was alive with light. Sunbeams from the twin stars poured through tall glass spires, scattering rainbows across the floor of polished stone. Alien banners hung from the high ceiling, each one painted with the sigil of the Thryn Empire, a silver dragon wrapped around a burning star. The air was thick with the scent of exotic flowers and the faint hum of energy fields that kept the palace shielded from harm. Humans had never stood here before. This was the heart of Thryn power, the throne room where the Emperor himself ruled, over hundreds of alien worlds. Today was historic. The first formal meeting between Earth and the Thryn since the war had ended 3 years ago. A line of human soldiers stood in perfect formation at the far end of the hall. Their polished boots clicked softly against the stone as they took their positions. They were chosen not just for skill, but for appearance, tall, straight-backed, wearing the black and silver dress uniform of the United Earth Defense Corps. Their job today was not to fight, but to represent humanity's strength and pride. Private Elias Ward was at the very end of the line. He was the youngest soldier there, just 20 years old, fresh out of the academy, his medals still new. His brown hair was neatly combed, but a lock had escaped and hung stubbornly over his forehead. His heart thudded in his chest, and he wondered for the 100th time why they had picked him. There were hundreds of older, more experienced soldiers on the ship. "Stand tall, Ward," muttered Sergeant Dax from 2 places down the line. "This isn't a parade. This is history." Elias straightened his spine. "Yes, Sergeant," he whispered. The heavy double doors at the far end of the hall opened with a deep groan. The Thryn entered. They were tall, graceful beings with skin that shimmered faintly like brushed metal. Some had crests of thin, flexible spines running down their heads and necks, while others wore elaborate armor that gleamed in the light. Every step they took echoed with a strange musical tone, as if their boots struck the floor in harmony with the hall itself. At the center of the group walked Princess Vera. She was unlike any of the others. Her hair, if it could be called hair, was a cascade of fine silver threads that seemed to catch the light and hold it, as if each strand had been spun from starlight. Her eyes were a deep violet, sharp and intelligent. And there was something in the way she moved, confident, yet with the weight of great responsibility. A long, flowing robe of dark blue silk followed her, embroidered with tiny patterns that shifted and shimmered when she moved. The humans had been told very little about her, only that she was the Emperor's only daughter and that she held great influence in the imperial court. She stepped forward until she stood just a few meters from the human line. Her gaze swept over them, calm but searching, as if she were looking for something only she could see. The hall grew silent, even the human. Ambassadors at the side of the room stopped their quiet conversation. Every soldier held their breath. Vera's eyes moved slowly from soldier to soldier. The tall lieutenant with broad shoulders, the decorated captain with medals shining across his chest, the seasoned veterans whose faces told stories of battle. And then her gaze reached Elias. For a moment he thought she would glance past him like she had with the others, but she didn't. Her eyes stopped, focused sharply on him. Elias felt a strange sensation. Not fear exactly, but as if someone had suddenly seen through him, straight to his thoughts. The princess tilted her head slightly, studying him. The silence in the hall felt heavier, pressing in from all sides. Then she lifted her hand and pointed directly at him. Her voice, when she spoke, was clear and strong, echoing off the crystal walls. "He will be mine." The words hung in the air. Elias blinked. For a moment, he wasn't even sure he had heard her right. The human soldiers shifted slightly in confusion. The Thryn nobles behind the princess murmured to each other, some clearly surprised, others watching with unreadable expressions. Ambassador Clark, the human representative, took a half step forward. Your Highness, forgive me, but... The princess raised her hand, silencing him without looking his way. It is decided, she said. I will speak with him privately. Two Thrinn guards stepped forward, their armor gleaming under the light. They moved to stand on either side of Elias. Sergeant? Elias whispered out of the corner of his mouth. Go, Sergeant Dax muttered, though his tone was tight with concern. Don't do anything stupid. Elias swallowed, hard as the guards guided him away from the formation and toward the steps of the throne. He could feel every pair of eyes in the hall on him. Princess Vera turned and began walking toward a side corridor, gesturing for him to follow. The guards fell into step behind them. The corridor was quieter, lined with tall windows showing the city of Cryath beyond. Shining towers, hovering ships, and streets alive with alien life. Elias had never seen anything like it. Finally, they entered a small chamber. The walls were lined with shelves of strange crystal objects, and a low table stood in the center with two chairs on either side. The princess sat gracefully and with a small gesture invited Elias to do the same. He sat stiffly, unsure what to say. You are wondering why I chose you, Vera said, her eyes fixed on him. Yes, Your Highness, Elias admitted. I'm just a private. There are better soldiers here, stronger ones, more experienced ones. Vera smiled faintly, but there was no mockery in it. I did not choose the strongest. I chose the one with the right eyes. My eyes, Elias repeated. Confused. They are the eyes of someone who has not yet been broken by war, she said. Someone who still sees more than orders and enemies. You will understand soon enough. Elias tried to think of a response, but nothing came. He wasn't sure if she was complimenting him or warning him. The princess leaned forward slightly. From this moment on, Private Elias Ward, you are under my protection. But that also means you are bound to me, at least until I release you. Elias's pulse quickened. Bound? How? In the way of my people, she said. You will serve as my shield, my voice among humans, and my witness in the days to come. That sounds important, Elias said carefully. It is, she replied. And it will not be easy. Many in my court will see you as a weakness. Others will see you as a threat. You will need to be ready. Before Elias could ask anything else, one of the guards stepped into the room and spoke quickly in the Thrinn language. Vera's expression shifted slightly, a touch of irritation, maybe, or concern. She rose to her feet. We will speak. Again soon, she said. For now return to your people. But remember this, you are no longer just a soldier of Earth. You are mine. Elias was escorted back through the crystal hall, where the other soldiers stood waiting. The whispers had grown louder now, both among humans and Thrinn. As he rejoined the formation, Sergeant Dax gave him a look that was equal parts curiosity and worry. What happened? Dax asked under his breath. Elias straightened his shoulders, eyes forward. I'm not entirely sure, he said quietly. But I think my life just got a lot more complicated. Far above them, through the tall glass spires, the twin suns of Cryath shone down on the city. And somewhere deep inside the palace, Princess Vera was already making plans that would change not just Elias's life, but the future of both their worlds. The human delegation's quarters were nothing like the Crystal Hall. They were practical, clean, and safe, but compared to the glittering beauty of the Thrinn Palace, they felt plain. Metal walls, neat rows of bunks, and the quiet hum of life support systems filled the space. It was meant for function, not comfort. Elias Ward sat on the edge of his bunk, still wearing his dress uniform. He hadn't moved much since the guards returned him from the meeting with Princess Vera. Around him, the other soldiers were whispering, throwing him quick glances when they thought he wasn't looking. Sergeant Dax finally broke the tension. All right, Ward, he said, folding his arms. What in the stars happened back there? Elias looked up. She chose me, said I'm under her protection, and that I'm bound to her. Dax's eyebrows shot up. Bound? What does that even mean? I don't know, Elias admitted. She said I'll be her shield and her voice among humans. Whatever that means. The other soldiers exchanged uneasy looks. Some smirked as if this was a joke, but others looked worried. One veteran, Corporal Wren, shook his head. I've heard stories about Thryn claims. Sometimes it's political, sometimes it's more personal. Either way, it's complicated. Before Elias could ask more, the door slid open and Ambassador Clark entered, followed by 2 human aides. His sharp suit was spotless, his face calm, but his voice carried a tone of urgency. Ward, I need you to come with me. Now. Elias stood quickly. Yes, sir. The ambassador gave the rest of the soldiers a warning look. This is not for discussion. The fewer rumors, the better. Then he turned and walked out, expecting Elias to follow. They moved through a series of glass-walled corridors that offered breathtaking views of Kreath's capital. The city seemed to float, towers, and walkways suspended high above ground level, linked by sleek, hovering transports. Below, streets bustled with Thryn citizens, their shimmering forms moving gracefully among colorful markets and glowing fountains. Clark walked fast, speaking only once they entered a small meeting room. Inside, a holographic map of the Thryn. Empire rotated slowly above a round table. Ward, Clark began, do you have any idea what just happened? Elias hesitated. The princess chose me for something. Clark's lips tightened. For something, yes. In Thryn culture, pointing to a person during a formal ceremony can mean claiming them as part of a political bond. It's a gesture with deep historical weight. And in this case, it happened in front of both delegations, the Emperor's court and the media. Media? Elias repeated. Clark sighed. Every news network in the Thryn Empire is already replaying the moment, and our own people on Earth are asking questions. This is complicated. Sir, if this is bad, can't we just explain it's a misunderstanding? Clark shook his head. No. If we try to undo it publicly, it could insult her, and by extension, the Emperor. We're trying to form an alliance here, Ward. One wrong move could destroy months of negotiations. Elias rubbed the back of his neck. So, what do I do? For now, you'll cooperate. We'll figure out the details as we go. Just remember, every word you say to her might carry political weight. Be respectful, avoid promises, and for Earth's sake, don't agree to anything without speaking to me first. A soft chime at the door interrupted them. It slid open to reveal a Thryn court official in a robe of gold and black. His metallic skin reflected the light like liquid bronze. The princess requests the presence of Private Elias Ward, the official said, his voice smooth but formal. Clark gave Elias a long, steady look. Remember what I said. Elias followed. The official through twisting hallways until they reached a tall set of double doors guarded by 2 armored Thryn soldiers. The doors opened to reveal a massive chamber lined with tall glass pillars. The floor was a mosaic of deep blue stone, and the air smelled faintly of jasmine. Princess Vera stood near a long window looking out over the city. She turned as Elias approached. "Private Ward," she said. "Walk with me." They moved together along the windowed corridor. Outside, flying ships streaked past, leaving trails of faint light in the air. Vera's robe flowed behind her like liquid night. "You have questions," she said without looking at him. "Yes, Your Highness," Elias replied carefully. "Why me? Why choose me when you had a dozen more impressive soldiers to pick from?" "I told you," she said. "Your eyes are not like theirs. You are unshaped clay, not hardened stone." Elias frowned. That sounds poetic, but it doesn't really explain much. Vera's lips curved into a small smile. You will learn, but for now you must understand. My court is not united. Some see your people as potential allies. Others see you as dangerous outsiders. My choice today was not without cost. What kind of cost? Elias asked. Enemies, she said simply. There are those who will use you to undermine me. They will test you. They will test your people. And if you fail, they will use your failure to weaken me. Elias swallowed hard. So I'm a target now? Not just a target, Vera said. A symbol. Symbols can be powerful or dangerous. They walked in silence for a moment, the hum of the city filling the air. Then Vera stopped before a set of glass doors that opened onto a private balcony. From here, the entire city stretched out like a living painting. Twin suns dipped toward the horizon, casting gold and violet light across the skyline. Do you see it? She asked. It's beautiful, Elias said honestly. It is also fragile, Vera replied. This city, this peace, even the empire itself, all of it can be shattered if we are not careful. The galaxy is not at rest, Private Ward. Storms are coming. That night, Elias returned to the human quarters, his mind heavy with what she had said. The other soldiers were still curious, but he gave them no details, only that he was helping with diplomacy. Sergeant Dax watched him carefully. You're walking in deep water, Ward, he warned. Just remember, the Thrinn don't think like us. One wrong step, and you could drown. But before Elias could respond, the door slid open again, this time revealing 2 Thrinn guards in full armor. The princess requests your presence at tomorrow's council, one said. Elias blinked. Council? Yes, the guard replied. You will stand beside her as she addresses the High Lords. Dax let out a low whistle. Kid, you're moving fast. Elias didn't answer. He was too busy wondering what exactly he had been pulled into and why it felt like his life was no longer his own. The next morning, the council chamber was filled with towering figures, each draped in the colors of their noble houses. The air buzzed with quiet conversation. When Princess Vera entered, all eyes turned to her, and then to Elias walking at her side. Whispers spread quickly. Some nobles frowned. Others raised their brows in interest. One, a tall male with emerald-colored skin and sharp golden eyes, smiled thinly at Elias, though there was nothing friendly in it. Vera took her place at the center of the room. Elias stood just behind her right shoulder, feeling the weight of dozens of alien stares. The council began discussing trade agreements, military patrols, and border disputes. Elias didn't understand all of it. Much of it was in the Thrinn language, translated only in parts, but he noticed how often certain nobles glanced at him. Some looked curious, others hostile. At one point, the emerald-skinned noble rose to speak. Your Highness, he said, his voice carrying a hint of challenge. Your decision to bring an untested human into our council is unusual. Perhaps you can explain his purpose. Vera's tone remained calm. Private Ward is here under my authority. He is my chosen representative from the human delegation, and his presence symbolizes the unity we seek. Unity, the noble said slowly, or weakness? The room went silent. Elias felt a flash of heat in his chest. He wanted to speak, but Clark's warning rang in his head. Don't agree to anything. Don't say too much. Still, when the noble's gaze locked on him, Elias held his ground and met it without flinching. Vera's voice was cool but firm. Strength comes in many forms, Lord Sirath. You will see. The meeting continued, but Elias knew something had just happened, something important. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was part of a game far bigger than he understood, and from the way Vera glanced at him as they left the chamber, he knew that whatever her plan was, he was already in the middle of it. The council chamber echoed in Elias's mind long after it was over. He could still hear the way Lord Sirath, the emerald-skinned noble, had said weakness. It wasn't just an insult. It was a warning. Back in the human quarters, Sergeant Dax caught him before he could sit down. "Ward, you've got people talking. Half the soldiers think you're on some royal mission. The other half think you're walking into a trap." Elias gave a humorless laugh. "I think it might be both." Before Dax could reply, the door slid open again. 2 Thrinn guards stepped inside. Elias recognized them, the same pair who had escorted him to Vera before. "The princess requests your presence," one said. Dax muttered under his breath. "Kid, you're practically living in her shadow now." Elias followed the guards through winding palace corridors. This time, they didn't take him to a grand hall or council room. They led him down narrower passages, lit by soft blue lights, until they reached a tall, arched door. When it opened, Elias stepped into a room unlike any he had seen before. Kest walls were covered in intricate carvings, each telling a story. Battles fought in the stars, strange creatures unlike anything Elias knew, and symbols that seemed to shift when viewed from the corner of his eye. At the center of the room stood a long, low table made of black stone, its surface polished to a mirror shine. Princess Vera stood at the far end, her silver thread hair shimmering in the dim light. She looked up as Elias entered. "Private Ward," she said softly. "You came." "I didn't exactly have a choice," Elias replied. Vera's lips curved slightly. "Few of us ever do." She gestured for him to join her at the table. As he stepped closer, he noticed strange crystal devices arranged along the edges, softly glowing. In the center lay a circular holographic projector, which hummed to life as she touched it. A map appeared, not of the Thrinn Empire alone, but of a vast stretch of the galaxy. Dozens of stars glowed in miniature, linked by faint lines showing trade routes, military borders, and zones of influence. "Do you know what this is?" Vera asked. "A star map," Elias guessed. "Yes, but not a current one." She tapped a control, and the map shifted. Several of the stars dimmed, their light fading to black. "This is the future, at least the one I have seen." Elias frowned. "Seen? You mean predicted?" Vera met his eyes. "The Thrinn have ways of reading patterns, not just in politics or war, but in the movements of civilizations. Some call it prophecy, others call it mathematics. The name doesn't matter. What matters is this." She tapped again. The blackened stars spread, consuming more territory. "In less than 10 cycles, an enemy will rise in this region. They will not be Thrinn, nor human. They will not seek alliance. They will take, and they will burn worlds until nothing remains." Elias stared at the map. "How do you know this?" "Because I have already seen the first signs," Vera said. "Border stations disappearing, entire colonies gone without a trace. My father dismisses it as pirates or rebels. Most of the council refuses to believe it. But I know better." Elias pointed at one of the dimmed stars. "And this has what to do with me?" Vera's gaze sharpened. "There is an old Thrinn legend. A fragment of it survived even before our people sailed the stars. It speaks of a star-born warrior who will unite 2 great houses of the galaxy to stand against the darkness. The warrior will not be of Thrinn blood, but will earn the right to stand as one of us. When I saw you in the hall, I knew." Elias blinked. "You think I'm this warrior?" "I know you are," she said simply. He let out a breath. "Vera, I'm just a private. I've never even seen real combat outside simulations. That is why you are unbroken, Vera said. War changes a person. It can harden them. Yes, but it can also make them blind. You still see possibilities others do not. That is what we need. Elias shook his head slowly. If this is true, why not tell the human diplomats or the council? Because they would not believe me, she said. Not until it is too late. But if I can prove that you, the human I chose, can stand against our challenges, they will listen. Before Elias could respond, the crystal, device nearest to them, pulsed with a sharp, urgent light. Vera turned toward it, her expression tightening. What's happening? Elias asked. A disturbance at the outer gate, she said. Stay here. But Elias didn't stay. He followed her through the side corridor until they emerged on a high balcony overlooking one of the palace's outer courtyards. Below, a group of armored Thryn guards were struggling to restrain three strangers. They were taller than most. Thryn, with darker, almost stone-like skin and jagged markings across their faces. Vera's voice was low but tense. Rathna, she muttered. Mercenaries? Not supposed to be here. The leader of the intruders shouted something in a guttural language. Vera's guards tightened their grip, but the mercenaries fought hard, throwing off two of them before more reinforcements rushed in. One of the intruders broke free and drew a weapon, a strange curved blade that seemed to shimmer with heat. Before, Elias knew it. His body moved on instinct. He grabbed a fallen guard's staff and leapt down from the balcony, landing hard but steady. The mercenary turned toward him, swinging the blade in a wide arc. Elias blocked it, the force jolting through his arms, and shoved back hard. The fight was quick, rough, and not at all like the clean sparring simulations he had known. The mercenary was strong, but Elias was faster, darting in with quick strikes and forcing him to step back. Finally, with a sharp twist of the staff, Elias disarmed the intruder, sending the blade skidding across the courtyard. The other guards moved in, restraining the mercenary again. From above, Vera watched, her eyes unreadable. Later, back in the carved chamber, she studied him across the table. You fight without hesitation, she said, even when told to stay back. I didn't think about it, Elias admitted. I just acted. That, Vera said quietly, is exactly what the legend describes. Elias sat heavily. So what now? You parade me around until the council believes your prophecy? Not exactly, she said. There will be trials, tests of skill, strategy, and resolve. You will face them in front of the court. If you succeed, they will have no choice but to see you as more than a symbol. And if I fail? Vera's expression darkened. Then they will not just reject the prophecy. They will reject me, and the alliance between our people will shatter. Elias stared at the map again, the blackened stars creeping outward, like a slow fire. He didn't know if he believed in ancient prophecies. He didn't know if he could win whatever trials she meant. But he did know one thing. If there really was a threat coming, and if Vera was the only one who saw it, then walking away wasn't an option. All right, he said finally. I'll do it. Vera's violet eyes softened just slightly. Good. Then we begin tomorrow. The day dawned cold and gray on Cryath, with clouds swirling low over the city's soaring towers. The people of the Thryn Empire were already gathering in the great arena, a vast circular structure carved from stone and crystal. It was a place of tradition, where ancient ceremonies and contests had been held for centuries. Elias stood at the edge of the arena, feeling the weight of thousands of eyes on him. He was dressed not in his usual uniform, but in a simple tunic, and armor crafted by Thryn smiths. It was light and flexible, designed for agility, a stark contrast to the heavy gear he was used to wearing. Beside him stood Princess Vera, calm and regal, watching silently from the royal box high above. The crowd. Her violet eyes seemed to glow with quiet confidence, but Elias knew she was risking a lot by putting him forward. A booming voice echoed through the arena. "Welcome, citizens of the Thrin Empire! Today, we witness a test unlike any other. A challenge that will decide the fate of an alliance, and perhaps of the galaxy itself." The crowd erupted in cheers and shouts. Elias swallowed hard and stepped forward. The first trial was the test of strength. The challenge was simple in theory. Elias would face a Thrin champion in a one-on-one combat. The champion was a towering warrior named Kale, known across the Empire for his fierce skill and speed. As Kale entered the arena, the crowd's cheers grew louder. He was all muscle and sharp angles, his armor glinting in the dim sunlight. Elias felt a surge of fear, but also determination. The fight began with a clash of weapons. Elias dodged Kale's first strike, barely, and countered with a quick jab. Kale laughed, a deep sound that echoed through the arena. "You fight well for a human," Kale said, "but you are no match for me." Elias didn't reply. He focused on his training, quick movements, careful timing, and staying one step ahead. The battle was fierce, with both fighters pushing their limits. Elias felt pain as Kyle's blade grazed his arm, but he kept moving. Finally, after what seemed like hours but was only minutes, Elias saw an opening. Kale overextended on a heavy swing, and Elias lunged forward, knocking the weapon from his hand and pressing his own blade to Kale's throat. The crowd was silent for a moment, then erupted into applause. Kale nodded, a grudging respect in his eyes. "You have strength. Well done." The second trial was the test of wit. Elias was led into a chamber filled with holographic puzzles and alien symbols. His task was to solve the ancient code that would unlock the secrets of a lost Thrin. At first, the symbols seemed random and meaningless. Elias felt overwhelmed. But then he remembered something Vera had said. "You see possibilities others do not." He focused, looking for patterns. Slowly, the symbols began to make sense. Connections between shapes, echoes of human code breaking. Techniques mixed with alien logic. Minutes passed, then seconds, until the final symbol clicked into place. The chamber doors slid open, and Elias breathed a sigh of relief. The final trial was the test of diplomacy. Elias stood before the assembled High Council, tasked with negotiating a peace treaty between two warring Thrin houses. This was the hardest challenge of all. Words could cut deeper than any blade, and every phrase was weighed and measured. Elias spoke clearly and honestly, listening carefully to both sides. He acknowledged their fears and hopes, finding common ground in their shared desire for survival. Slowly, the council members began to nod, murmuring agreements. Elias felt a spark of hope. When the session ended, Princess Vera rose and addressed the crowd. "Today, Private Elias Ward has shown courage, wisdom, and honor. He has proven that strength lies not just in muscle or weapons, but in the heart and mind." The crowd erupted in cheers once more. Back in the royal chamber, Vera approached Elias. "You have done well," she said softly. Elias nodded, exhausted, but proud. "Tomorrow, the real challenge begins," she warned. "The invasion is coming. We must prepare." Elias looked out the window at the stars above Cryath. His life had changed forever. The palace was quiet in the early morning, the soft light of Cryath's twin suns spilling through the high windows. Elias stood alone in the royal gardens, watching the sky change colors. His armor, once heavy with the weight of expectation, now felt like a second skin. Days of trial had passed, and with each moment, Elias felt himself grow stronger, not just in body, but in mind and spirit. But today was different. Today was the day he had to decide what path he would take. Princess Vera approached quietly, her steps soft on the marble paths. Her violet eyes held a mixture of pride and worry. "Elias," she said, "the council meets tonight to finalize the alliance. You will stand with me before all of Cryath. The galaxy will watch." He nodded. "I am ready." They walked together to the great hall, where the high lords and ladies gathered. The chamber was filled with tension, old rivalries and new fears simmering beneath polite words. As Vera began to speak, Elias stood beside her, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. "My people face a threat unlike any before," Vera said. "An enemy that will not stop until all are destroyed. We need allies, we need courage, and we need hope." All eyes turned to Elias. He stepped forward. "People of the Thrin Empire," he began, "I am just a young soldier from Earth, but I have seen what comes when we face threats together, not as enemies, but as friends. I stand here not because I am strong alone, but because I believe in what we can build together." A murmur spread through the hall. Some faces softened, others remained hard. Suddenly, Lord Sirath, the noble who had challenged him before, rose to speak. "You speak. Well, human. But words alone will not save us." Elias met his gaze without fear. "Then let our actions speak," he said. "I challenge those who doubt to join me in preparing for what comes. Together we can face any darkness." The room fell silent. Then, one by one, nobles began to nod, some even standing. Vera smiled. "The alliance is sealed." After the meeting, Elias and Vera stood on the palace balcony looking out at the stars. "You could have refused," Vera said softly. "But you didn't." "I couldn't," Elias replied. "Not when so much depends on it." She reached out and took his hand. "Now begins the true fight," she said. Elias squeezed her hand, ready for whatever lay ahead. The war would be long and hard, but united, humans and Thrin would face the coming storm. And in the heart of that alliance stood the youngest soldier, chosen not by strength but by hope.